What is grace? Amazing grace. Grace notes, gracious host, graceful dance, Grace Kelly, conceding gracefully. What is grace? A word that does not tire us out. The unmerited gift, something you receive that you had little or no power in making come to you. Grace is something you don't deserve, something you cannot work to achieve, something that does not prove your merit or your might. Grace is not ours to make. It is a quality of God. It is God's gift to humankind, free and unmerited. Robert Jensen defined grace as the favor of God, both the giver and the gift at the same time. Today's parable story is about money. Yes, it's about paying manual laborers, those with no steady work, but those who seek to make a living by going from place to harvest crops. And it's a modern idea, too. In rural agricultural communities, itinerant workers are needed for the harvest because they need lots of people for a short period of time and not throughout the whole year. And there are certainly other trades that use this kind of day worker. When Greg and I lived in Norwalk, Connecticut, I could tell you just exactly the block in which early in the morning many immigrants and day laborers would line up waiting for people to come and talk to them and invite them a job. I need 3 people to mow today. I need 4 to work on framing a house. I need 5 people to put up drywall, and so on and so forth. The kingdom of God is like. And then this irritating parable mind worm of a story with no easy morals that is supposed to keep us thinking and thinking for a week, or maybe a year, or maybe a lifetime. The kingdom of God is like the day's full pay being paid to those who have worked a half day or an hour. Is this fair? Absolutely not. And notice how the early workers are absolutely delighted to have received a fair pay until they observe what has happened with the other workers. How could this master operate in a way that is other than fair? It is scandal and an outrage. Writes one James K.A. Smith, what offends us about God's sheer, inexplicable mercy and grace is that it is an affront to the meritocracy that we have imported into our spiritual lives. God does not and will not answer to our expectations. Now, this is bad news, and we grumble when we are left feeling like we haven't been treated according to the meritocracy. We are left with a pit on our stomach and a cry of unfair that gets caught in our throats. This is the unnerving truth that this parable reveals. God owes us nothing. God owes us nothing, even while we are always trying to sneak away to the land where we can earn our money, our fame, based on our merits. Grace is never about balance or meeting things out or evening things up or parsing things fairly. There is a kind of serendipity to grace which blesses us in the receiving. And when we receive it, we love it. It is so sweet to receive grace. But when we observe others, it can kind of stick in our throats or be like a bad blister on the heel. It can reflect badly on us when we begrudge others grace. Now, I may wish for your waterfront property or wish that I had hair like Rachel Barter, or that my mom taught me to play violin like the Grassi daughters got to learn, but that's not what I got. The whining for what we don't have shows we have missed what grace is about. And furthermore, that whining can blind us to the abundance of grace that actually is ours. Yeah, I got a preacher's life and an amazing husband and a daughter who, without prompting, is taking her recently widowed grandmother out to dinner tonight. That is grace. Grace is never about balance and parsing things out and evening things up, nor is there a scale that can measure grace. My grace is, ironically, both completely unequal to yours and completely equal to yours because we all just swim in it. Grace is ephemeral, and it is less about the whatness than it is about the spirit in which we receive it. Grace evaporates the second we try to pull out rulers and scales, and we often blind ourselves to grace when we expect it to work like just deserts or earned income or equality under some divine law. We miss grace when we think it behaves like blind luck or bitter fate. Rather, grace expands with wonder and gratitude. Grace is serendipitous, unforeseeable, elusive, and astonishing. But the more we appreciate its delights, the more we find it unfolding in our lives. Grace is a power that acts in us and is not controllable by our power or force or desire. Or perhaps it is more that when we receive grace, we actually come to see the way in which we inhabit grace. Grace is spirit-filled knowledge that everything has its start and its end in the sacred. And through its expansive way of stretching us, grace teaches us the joy of extending grace to others as well. What we have received in such joyous and such lovely, free-spirited way from God, well, why not extend it to others? Why not share that grace with others who need it as well? Why not pay for the person's coffee who's in line behind us, or make cookies for a neighbor just because, or take our time to buy hoodies for strangers through Grace Street Ministries, or open up our time to comfort a grieving neighbor or a friend struggling with depression, or use some of our time to serve at community outreach services or at Bon Appetit. Grace, indeed grace, will elude our grasp when we attempt to hold it or to measure it, to claim it or demand it. But it will expand when we open our hands, when we open our arms, when we open our hearts. Truly, I bear witness to this. Once we have grace in view, we cannot help but see that as the waters cover the seas, so grace blankets every breath of our lives.